Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means each time we're asking ourselves, what happened today? What's significant about it, right? What does it tell us about the coming days? I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel L.A. Little. And if you want to subscribe to the show, just reach up in the right-hand corner and do so. Anytime I push public content, you'll get a notification. Of course, we got a big push up today. So big it blew away my screens. Let's start again here. So let's look at the ending numbers, and then let's go to the charts. What do we have? I don't see much red on here. Dollar was down some. Oil was down some. That's about it. Everything else up. You had those blowouts in Europe I was talking about last night. You got the big move on the German DAX today, joining the breakout on the CAC yesterday. You had a move up in Asia that will continue tonight. And of course, our indexes moved up. Russell was lagging today. Now that's something that's different, right? Who was leading today? S&P 500, right? S&P and the NDX both knock out 1.3%. Improbable as it is, improbable as everything is with respect to this market, it just blew higher and surprised everybody. You can see the huge move. Don't have that much volume with it, but you got a significant spike to the top side. What can I say? Improbable, right? You go up, what is that, about 30 points or so? It's a big move, and I guess I'm kind of stuttering here because I didn't expect it. I thought we would come to this high. I thought we'd probably fell, get some sort of a retrace, and then make the breakout move. But no, there's too much performance anxiety, and now they're pushing this thing to the top side, and they're pushing it in a big way. There are ABCD structures. They're huge. I really can't fathom these things finishing. But you know what? When a market's moving, when performance anxiety is peaked like it is now, anything can happen. And right now that is happening. And I can't find anything wrong with that bar, anything that make me want to do something different than to simply ride this gravy train. NASDAQ gets to push up. It's coming into this breakdown bar. Top of that one's 53.93, closes 53.93.76, so it's over it. That means it can go higher. NDX now is the one that's been lagging. That one's going to come after its breakdown bar, 48.80. I suspect it's not that far away. And like we were talking about, the Russell just continues higher. Last night I showed you the breakout move here on the CACs, right? Breaks over the swing point highs, does it on the weekly too. That was what we were looking at last night. You get a continuation of that today, and you got the DAX chiming in, doing the same thing tonight as well. That one also is breaking out and doing so in a nice linear fashion, just heading straight up. I didn't see anything else overseas that was that interesting. Now, we do have the ECB coming out tomorrow. I pull up the currencies because that's where we'll be looking tomorrow to see what they're wanting to do. Now, the dollar had this huge run, right? It's got a little retrace going on. A lot of people like to do fib numbers. This is somewhere around a third of the move. 62%ers down in here, right from the bottom. I think that it's great if you want to do this stuff, right? I mean, I used to do that stuff too. The classical TA, everybody does it. But, that's not where it doesn't always line up the same time, the same places. And, I think a better way to do this is neoclassically, and that is you take anchor bars, and this is clearly an anchor bar. It's got heavy volume. And as you come in to test that, if it gets under it, right? If it gets underneath here and it can't stay there, right? And it pops right back the other way. So in other words, you come down in here, you test, and then you end up just closing back up there. Folks, that's telling you that this thing cannot break this bar down. It's probably going to flip around. It's probably going to head back the other way. And so what you want to do is find these kind of conditions, know what the odds are, right? And then see how it comes into it and decide what to do about it. Now, sometimes your probabilities are so great you can front run them. Here, it's not that great, but you can observe what takes place at this price point. And if you can't break it down and you end up closing back up the other way, this thing has a good shot then, right, probability-wise, of going back the other way. That's neoclassical. That's the way you can read the markets. You're reading the tape. You know, the market moves based on supply and demand, based on money. Someone always knows something. When you get a situation like that, you know, this market's probably going to tell us what it wants to do. And when it does that, we can make moves on that. Let's look at the euro, see what it looks like. Now, the euro, of course, is going to be the opposite. Then the euro got the big spike up, had some decent volume. Not enough to hold out. So looky here on the euro. You have the opposite case. Here's your gap breakdown bar, right? The top of that bar is right there. That's where some decent volume is. And so as you come into this, you don't have as much, but you have a good amount, right? You got most of it. So you're trying to come into it again. Tomorrow, if this can't shoot up and get over this and stay over it, right, it's just going to crumble back the other way. Even if it gets over it, I don't know that it goes all that far because it's going to be coming back into this bearish retest, regenerate off this swing point low. More than 6 bars, you've probably heard me say this before. When that happens and you come back into it the first time, expect that thing to regenerate back to the downside. And so if you're not long dollars, you might want to think about being long dollars because that's probably going to be the trade here before you know it, if not tomorrow. So that's that one. If the dollar's going up, what's that going to do? Well, see, now you can start playing with the ideas that, oh, well, if the dollar goes up, that's probably going to put pressure on not basic, but commodities, in particular, the precious metals. If we flip over to look at the gold chart, for example, this thing can't even lift. And so if you start getting more dollar pressure, I'm not sure how much farther that's going to go to the downside. Dollar pressure could hurt the oil market, although the oil market kind of ticks to its own beat. It did get a pullback today. Coming into this big bar, this is where the oil market should try and turn around, so we can measure that. If we look at the continuous commodity index, you know, now a big piece of this is oil, so we'll see how that one trades. You know, you can start making those kind of derivative things. Here's what probably should happen. You can see how they trade or don't trade. And then, of course, you can trade off of those. Grains, for example, should get hurt on a stronger dollar. It makes the exports harder. And look at what grains are doing. Grains are coming back into these bearish retest regenerate zones. Now, here it's within 6 bars. When you come back within, you can do a full retest regenerate. In other words, you can come all the way to the top. You got one over here as well. So you got this little overlap area here. It's going to be hard to get over. I suspect the grains are getting ready to turn. And so when you look at all of these together, it's like, oh, well, this one's actually getting to a point where it should turn. Probabilities are pretty decent. We got the, you know, the setup over in the dollar itself, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of see how they all fit together. Folks, market is strong. You know, a lot of times I like to tell members and you know, anytime I record a show, if you're going to err on the side of the trend, right? If you're not sure, just go with the trend. I mean, that's always the easiest trade. Find what's strong and simply go with it. You know, don't try to bottom pick this or bottom pick that. Just go with the trend. That's the easiest trade. It's always the easiest trade with one exception, and that is the edge, right? And so if I'm doing and And it's not, the trend, you really want a trend that's like on a weekly, that's the best one to try to go with, right? Versus on a daily. The daily flops around more than the weekly. But if I look at this weekly and I ask myself, what is the trend? Well, it's fairly obvious what the trend is here. I mean, this thing's down, right? The only time that doesn't work is at the edge, right? When you get to the edge of it and it actually reverses and it really starts a trend back the other way. So, for example, if we're doing the trend on this, and we actually did trade this to the upside back in the heyday back here earlier when commodities were hot, but when it gave it up, you had to recognize it really was. And when you saw that, you had to turn and go with it. In other words, if you tried to buy back here and then or maybe even on this bar, if you tried to buy it and then you saw this collapse start to take place, the trend's changing on you. That's the edge. That's the case that will fail you, right? But most of the time, the trend goes with you. I mean, you go with the trend and it usually works. So don't think it too hard, right? Trend, identify your trends. When there's strong trends, you stay with them as long as they let you. I'm going to wrap it up tonight. You got the ECB tomorrow. What do I expect they're going to do? Well, the market expects that they're going to extend their program. If the market has already priced it in, which it clearly has, and if that's all they do, then I think you get a little pullback at least. If the market has priced it in and they don't do that, right, then I think this market's going to come back harder. If they do more than that, right, that's the only upside that's out there is more than that, which isn't expected, then you could get some follow through. Watch the ECB, see what they do, look at your currencies. That will be the first place that you're going to get a tell, and then use that to make your decisions. If you don't understand what I'm talking about and you really want to learn about it, we're going to be opening the site back up. We've got mentors. I've been working on training folks in my methods, a detailed one-on-one training. We've got a lot of stuff coming up in the beginning of the new year. You got to get in line, though. Send me an email, and I'll get you in that line. So when we do open it up, you'll have a shot, because we're not going to take, but a limited number at a time so that we can treat them the right way, get them up to speed, and then take the next bunch. Have yourself a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.